Looks left, now middle, throws, caught. Broken tackle by Deebo Samuel, runs for a first down, 30, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! San Francisco!
What an absolute beast, Deebo Samuel.
Deebo did a lot of talking after the 49ers lost the NFC Championship last year, said had we had our quarterback, this would have been a double-digit victory. And this time, 49ers did have their quarterback. I'm sure Eagle fans might feel like, it might be a little bit different if the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, had been in the game the entirety of the time. The Niners hammer the Philadelphia Eagles, perhaps the best team in football. A lot of people thought so, at least on paper coming into this one. Eagles end up going down 42-19, the final from Philadelphia. The Niners open the game with back-to-back 3-and-outs. First time they've done that to open a game on offense all season long. They then roll to 6 consecutive touchdowns, 3 of which come at the hands of Deebo Samuel. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Niners move to 9-3. Eagles are 10-2. And if they end up tied, Niners own the tiebreak atop the NFC. How are we feeling about this one, fellas?
It was an impressive win. I mean, all the way around. And to start the game off the way the 49ers started off, 3-and-outs, and then, Philadelphia going up and down the football field, but only coming up with field goals. I mean, red zone defense was fantastic. And you talked about Deebo talking a lot after last year. He talked a lot before this football game, and he showed up today. I mean, he really showed up. And some of those runs were super impressive. And, all the way around, all facets, look great. Deebo looked great returning kicks. So, this team really came together and impressed me today. Brock Purdy continues to impress me. It was just all around a really fun game to watch, if you're a 49er fan.
Yeah, I mean,
if you're an Eagle fan, Dennis, it wasn't that fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, wasn't that fun.
Well, I mean, after the first quarter, you're thinking, because we've seen the Niners do this, it was 124 in yards to -6 in favor of Philadelphia, but the score's only 6-zip, so they kept them in the red zone out of the end zone. If it's 14-0 there, obviously, even though it ended up 42-19, we're probably talking about a different game because the 49ers have to change their game plan. But they held them to a 26-yard and a 39-yard field goal, and then quarters 2 through 4, the 49ers, yardage-wise, 462 to 209. And they outscored the Eagles 42-13. So, and then, like you guys said, 6 straight touchdown drives. But I think the real key to this game, and I know we're going to debate a lot of this, I don't know what the hell a security guard is doing on the sidelines. Dennis talked to me about this, that can reach across and reach and hit and get into it with a player physically. And then that guy gets kicked out, and Dre gets kicked out, and Kevin Burkhardt, who I really like, on Fox, said, well, it's 1-for-1. No, it's not. Some fat ass on the sidelines gets kicked out versus a player who's one of your best players.
I'm with John here. I had steam coming out of my ears, dude.
But here's the thing. Why does a team that has 60 players in full combat gear need a security guard to stand next to the coach? Like, is someone going to run out of the stand? What the hell's the guy even doing that close to the field? That should be secured and only for players and coaches directly involved in the game. What's Kyle going to bring his son out with him next game? I mean, what the hell is a security guy doing there? And then he reaches out to Dre Greenlaw and he gets kicked out, and you think that's 1-for-1 when a guy who's supposedly watching the coach for security reasons for some dumb
you're
reason
absolutely right, dude.
versus a player who but here's what happens. There's 6:51 left. The Eagles get it to 21-13. And the 49ers from that point forward go 3 straight touchdowns against the NFC champs in their place. The first one was that 48-yarder where Deebo Samuel was like, I'm not having this. A lesser team would have folded and gotten absolutely steamrolled by the Eagles at that point. Hell of a job by the 49ers.
Yeah, great job of keeping composure. I mean, I think it kind of gave the 49ers a little kick in the butt. And I'm not mad at Dre with the play. I mean,
I'm not either.
It's a physical
what was
football
the penalty?
game.
I'm saying if you're going to call unnecessary roughness, it's a soft penalty to begin with.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure there was a penalty on the play to begin with. And then, by the way, he gets up real quick. He's just mad about the hit onto the sideline. He catches one to the chest a little bit later from Demo Lenore that was kind of a the Niners got their money's worth, I think, on the hit for Dre Greenlaw at the very least, because it's not like he was in any pain. They could have called unnecessary roughness, but it would have been a cheap penalty. The ejection was I'm beside myself.
It's outrageous
that happened. If this guy's getting fined, and I'm sure he is because he was ejected, it's unbelievable that went down the way it did.
Well, here's how it happened. You know, Dre comes in first of all with the punch, trying to get the ball out, and then he suplexes.
That wasn't good.
The receiver. I mean, I'm not. I mean, it's football, but for this cat. to be on the sideline, security guard or wherever it is, to start pointing at a player. I mean, you're not in a football game. Keep your big self on the sidelines. Do what you got to do. Protect the coach. Stand in front of him. What do you got to do? But, don't try to get into the football
Anybody else
game.
pissed that they had information on this guy? That they had, pregame, but he picks the restaurants for the – I was like, if you don't shut the hell up about this guy, Dom, I don't want to know any more about Dom.
It sounds like a brother-in-law to me. Brother-in-law.
Yeah, look, he should never be on the sidelines again. The NFL itself should look at the policy of who's on the sidelines and who is not on the sidelines, and then to be that close to a play in which you can reach out and get messed with a player. What would stop any other team from just having an antagonistic guy down there that's a loudmouth like that guy and just yelling and screaming at players and trying to take them out of their game? That's completely ridiculous, because if he doesn't get into it with Dre Greenlaw, it's just a 15-yard penalty and we play on. But at that point of the game, again, a team with less composure, I think, loses that football game because they score. It's 21-13. People are going bananas. And all of a sudden, the 49ers are like, okay, and give Brock a ton of credit because I saw the interview afterwards. He goes, we just have to put the pedal to the metal, and that's what they did. They scored 3 straight possessions after that and really didn't even take a breath. I mean, I think they were emotional walking in. They wanted to back up their words. But actually, that incident, which initially looked like it was going to be in favor of the Eagles, I think was in favor of the 49ers. It pissed them off.
And we got to remember, we're talking about Philadelphia now. I mean, this is what the Philadelphia fans do. And he's a fan. He's on the sideline, so he takes on that persona a little bit, just kind of that bully attitude.
I've just never seen it. I know they won, and it's 42-19. We should be celebrating, and no doubt. And all of a sudden, we're Cowboys fans. Cowboys knock off the Eagles next week, and all of a sudden, the 49ers are the number 1 seed. But, I mean, I'm watching that thing, and obviously anybody who's covering this game is putting big stars by that whole thing, because I'm thinking to myself, is this going to flip the game? Is this energy, is this momentum going to flip the game?
Yeah, I hear you.
And if we'd been sitting here after a loss and that flipped everything around, that is outrageous. And even Kyle after the game was like, I have no idea why a guy not involved in football is able to reach my player on the side. He was flabbergasted. And then he said he thought he set a record for F-bombs in a game or something like that. If I was him, I would have been hot.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Niners 42-19, just an absolute ass-kicking of the defending NFC champions. The third loss for the Eagles at home in the last 2 years. Let's get you the stat of the game, sponsored by Stevens Creek Toyota. Shop a huge selection of over 500 vehicles. Stevens Creek Toyota, the obvious choice. Why don't we make the stat of the game Christian McCaffrey? 17 carries on the ground for 93 yards and a touchdown. He also has 4 catches for 4 targets, 3 catches for 40 yards. And on the season now, over 61 yards on the day, put him over 1,000 yards rushing on the year. We'll make that the stat of the game. Brock Purdy also fantastic in this one, 19-27, 314, 4 touchdowns, and spread the ball around. Deebo Samuel was the star with 4 catches on 4 targets, 116. Also found the end zone on the ground as well as 2 times through the air. But Kittle, 4 catches for 68. Ayuk, 5 for 46. You had 3 for Jennings for 41, including a great touchdown and a huge third down conversion before a touchdown on Thad and Jawan for Jawan Jennings. And then, so I mentioned McCaffrey, 3 for 40, and they stymied this Philadelphia Eagles offense. We will get to your calls. 808-KNBR, 415-808-KNBR, 808-5627 is the number to call and to text. We are streaming live on YouTube and twitch.tv/thesportsleader. You can also find us on KNBR.com and the KNBR app. Fill up the phone lines here. Niners 42-19. How likely is it you think that they win out? Eagles go to Dallas next week after getting hammered this week against the Niners at home. Niners really big test still on Christmas Day against the Baltimore Ravens. It could be the best in the AFC. They've got a bye this week. We'll talk more about that next. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you following a 42-19 Niner ass-kicking of the Philadelphia Eagles. 808-KNBR is the number to call on the Sports Leader.
Some fat ass on the sidelines.
I mean, I think the thing I'm most proud of is the resilience throughout the game. Like we talked about just a second ago, it wasn't pretty in the beginning, and we talked about trying to win a grimy game. And I know the score is what it is, but on defense, we didn't take the ball away all game, and then the beginning of the game was what it was. And then we lost Dre, midway through the game. So it was some things in there where we had to make sure we rebounded and we got back to work. And I mean, I can't speak enough about how great of a overall team that we have. I mean, it's the best offense, most explosive offense I've been a part of. I know if we take care of business on defense and special teams are doing what they're supposed to do, then we're going to have a chance every game.
As always, Fred Warner there following the 49ers' 42-19 victory over the thank you, Tim. The Predator, he yells in my ear. Fred Warner leading the defense here, 42-19 Niners over the Philadelphia Eagles in a game that I think a lot of 49er fans might have said they saw coming. Could have been this way last year in the NFC Championship. However, we talked a whole lot about this in the pregame show. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund, that this team far more healthy and maybe the healthiest Kyle's ever had a team this late into the season, certainly relative to last year. We'll get to your calls here, so you guys hanging out on the phone lines. You can check in on the text line as well. Same number as the phone lines, 808-KNBR, 808-5627. We can talk about this one, also talk about where the Niners go in terms of the number one seed. We're also streaming on YouTube and Twitch. Let's get to the difference maker of the game first, though, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today, or at BenjaminMoore.com. Even the defensive guy, Dennis Fred Warner, talking about the offense in that cut we had coming back. Defense gave up 19 points here, man. They have been fantastic since coming out of the bye. I think the difference maker in this is going to obviously, I think a lot of people are going to look to the offense. A lot of times they get the glory, but for you, I mean, you're a defensive guy. Where do you look? Well,
defense wins championships, right? And this team went out and, the offense came out and for whatever reason, couldn't execute. And the defense could. I mean, yeah, they gave up some big yards, some explosive yards, but when it came down to red zone, they kept Philly out the end zone. I mean, it could have been easily 14-0, very easily in the first quarter there, and it was only 6-0. And then the offense gets on track. So, the defense as a group, especially the secondary, played well, and I think that was a difference maker today.
I'll go to the offensive side, and Brock is obvious. After going 0 for 4 in the first quarter, he went 19 of 23 for 314 and 4 touchdowns, so he was awesome. But I thought Debo set the tone, and Debo had to play well today because he talked a bunch of trash. He called James Bradbury trash. So he had 3 carries, 22 rushing yards, scored a touchdown. He had 4 catches, 116, and because Ray McCloud was out, he had 60 return yards and 3 total touchdowns. I thought the 48-yard touchdown, and you could just tell when he caught it. He just said, I'm not getting tackled here. And he steamrolled guys, and that's the Debo they need moving forward. It's not really how many touches he gets. It's just a matter, like he had about 9 touches today, given kick returns, 3 carries, 4 catches, a couple of kickoff returns. You want to get Christian McCaffrey like 20 of those, and you'd like to get Debo more than, almost 10. But what he does when he gets them is what the key is. And I just thought he set the tone in this game pretty early. And then to get the 48-yard touchdown, which I thought was the big one. When they came within 21-13 after that big emotional play on the sidelines, they stick it into the end zone. That next possession was the game. And Debo scores the 48-yard touchdown pass, breaks a couple tackles
2
on the way.
2 plays later, right?
Yeah, and Nicholas Morrow had no chance on that. And that's what the 49ers were trying to do. We said it before the game. They were trying to make those plays in the middle of the field. Morrow had no chance, trucked a couple of guys, dives into the end zone, gets 48 yards, and it's 28-13, and Link just got quiet. People just went, damn, we thought we were
there's nobody there anymore. It was empty.
Right,
it was empty. It's easy to be quiet when there's nobody there.
But what happened was it was 28-13. Then Jalen Hurts left to the locker room at that point because he had concussion syndromes, and you knew at that point of the game that it was game, set, match. So I thought that he really set the tone, made some big plays, returned kicks because Ray was out. Debo was really good today.
Don't forget about the guy pregame who was in the Eagles parking lot yelling at the Niner fans saying, "This is Zesty Westy." I was like, it kind of seemed like it was Zesty Westy, dude. 808 KNBR is the phone number to call. Steve is giving us a call. Steve's out in New Orleans. Steve, what's going on, man? You're on the Sports Leader.
What's going on, fellas?
What's
I
up,
haven't
bro?
called in 2 years.
Yeah, it's great to hear your voice, man.
Hey, Steve, what's up?
I got my vodka.
Yeah, you do.
This is our guy, man. I remember you.
But this is a satisfying win. It was very businesslike, like those Niners teams from the 80s and early 90s, very businesslike. But I have been impressed with that secondary, those three youngsters, Thomas, Lenore, and Brown. The fact that I don't hear his name in the game, that's excellent.
Fantastic.
That means he's playing well.
Yep.
Oh, he's playing well. So, but I'm still cautioning, not getting too high, not getting too low. Got to maximize, got to do all of that. I'm looking forward to having Brock Purdy in the playoffs this year. It's something. He's young and he's growing. He's learning. It's something about him. He has that it factor. Unflappable in the pocket. He can roll out. He can elude. He can make those throws that, well, quite frankly, we haven't had a quarterback in a very long time who can make those throws when we need them. That wheel route to McCaffrey on that sideline.
Great play.
That was
Beautiful
a thing
play.
of
Beautiful
beauty.
play.
Thing of because I remember another wheel route in the Super Bowl. It didn't happen, and I'm still crushed. But other than that, you guys keep doing what you guys do.
Hey, Steve, before you go real quick, man, I know we got to let you know what this call was? It's very businesslike. Very businesslike, dude. Like today's win. Like the 80s and 90s.
Yes, it was.
Hey, we'll talk to you in 2025, Steve. Don't be a stranger, bro.
I'm on my fourth vodka since the game ended. I will be calling again. But the only reason why I couldn't call as much because when I used to call, they asked me to give other callers a chance, and so that's why I hadn't been getting through.
Well, that's it, Steve. You got to go now. We got to give other callers a chance, bro. All right, Steve. Thanks for the call, bro. Be well.
Vodka? Yes, I love vodka.
Who was that?
That is 42.
Was that John?
Was that John?
I mean, I could say that and it would be accurate, but I don't know if that's me or not.
That's probably, it sounds like a cut where you wouldn't know whether or not it was you. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund hanging out with you here. 808 KNBR is the phone number to call if you want to get involved on the conversation. Christian McCaffrey, this is going to go down as the greatest trade in 49er history. 91 yards on the ground today. He goes for over 1,000 on the season, and he by the way, he had 30 receiving yards through the air as well. Deebo Samuel, 2 receiving touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Brock Purdy, 314, 4 passing touchdowns. Does not throw an interception. Is sacked a couple of times, but all in all, the Niners are playing pretty damn good football, looking like they may be the best in the NFL. We got more to come here. 808 KNBR. If you want to get involved, you can check in on the text line, on the phone lines, and on YouTube and Twitch.tv/The Sports Leader. Niners 42-19 over the Eagles, only here on The Sports Leader. Let me get to a call first, and then I'll go to the ratings.
They ride the mesh point to Hurts, to DeAndre Swift. He wants him to go on a scramble drill to the back of the end zone. A.J. Brown. Hurts fell down. He got sacked. Kinlaw will get the sack. He was pointing to A.J. Brown to go to the back pylon on the scramble drill, and Brown never went. And then Hurts, as he was looking, just fell down.
Niners 42-19 over the Philadelphia Eagles. They're a game back to the 1 seed now in the NFC playoff picture. Philly goes to Dallas next week. Niners get the Seahawks coming to town, and then they've got to go to Arizona before coming on home on Christmas Day to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Niners for the first time all season open the game with back-to-back series where it's a 3 and out. And how about this? There was a note after the first quarter. They had negative 6 yards. Worst quarter yardage-wise for Kyle in his 7 years as a head coach. They go then 6 consecutive drives with 6 touchdowns scored, and in doing so, they rack up 450 total yards in that span. Again, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. 808 KNBR is the number to call. Let's go out to the phone lines here. Diana is in Gustine. Let's talk about this big win and Big Dom. What's going on, Diana? You're on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, nice. I'm so excited. Woo!
Good win, Diana. Good win. Hell yeah, it was. How you feeling about Big Dom, Diana?
What a statement. Hey, Big Dom pissed me off. But you know what? He did do us a favor because that set the tone for the rest of the game. I was watching it in Fresno. I drove down to spend the day with my daughter and watch the game. And, really couldn't enjoy it too much because, got those nerves going and the way that first quarter went, it really didn't settle down until after that happened and we came back and made that statement with Debo's touchdown, and I knew it was just, like Brock said, pedal to the metal. But I wanted to ask a question. I've never seen anybody, how did he not get a penalty, at least an offset Greenlaw's penalty? That should have been an offset.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Tell me your name again because I get notifications from the NFL and I just got the notification and it's funny you would ask because I have it on my phone right now. Yeah. Diane, I will read exactly what was said, and I agree with you. This is what makes it even more ridiculous. So this is a pool reporter talking to the lead official. It says there's not allowed to be a flag on the non-player sideline. Is that correct? Walt Anderson says yes. Rule 19 allows us to assist the officials by observing the video to assist in the administration of the foul they called on the field. We can help them assess a penalty against a player, but not a non-player. So they identified this guy, Dom, on the sidelines, and they can kick him out. But then the follow-up question is, I appreciate that. Anything else? He says, whatever. The other stuff is garbage. But here's the point, is that they can kick a non-player out. They cannot assess a player or a penalty on a non-player. But the thing that confuses me about that is they can assess penalties on the sidelines if you come out too far, if a coach goes down too far.
That's what I'm saying. We can't go unsportsmanlike on a sideline.
A coach can get a penalty. A team on the sideline can get a penalty. Right. So clearly Dom is not a 49ers employee. He's standing. Dom. He's the security guy for Nick Sirianni. For some reason, a coach needs a security guy when you have 60 players in battle gear around him. But whatever. So he has a security guy that stands by him. If anybody on that sideline who is employed by the Eagles commits any kind of a penalty or whatever it be, why couldn't you assess a penalty? The official says you cannot. You cannot assess a penalty on a non-player. Then why is he standing there? It's not enough to kick him out because what should have happened was that should have been offsetting penalties, and they shouldn't have, and the ball shouldn't have moved anywhere. So in other words, he slams him down. You get the penalties. It should have been offset, and the ball should have went back. They need to change the rule that a non-player. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, this might force that to happen. I hope that the NFL really takes a look at this because. What's going to stop any team then to get some big burly guy to,
You said it nicer than I did. Thank you.
Get the other team riled up,
Say what you mean, Diana. Call him what he is.
No, she's right.
Diana, thanks for the call. We appreciate it so much. You know what, though?
Guys, she's 100% right. So, first of all, Kyle Shanahan doesn't need security. He's fine. He's got Fred Warner and Javon Kinlaw and, Nick Bosa standing by him. A head coach doesn't need security on the sidelines. But she is right. So why don't you get just some, some big Shrek guy to stand next to you and hassle players throughout the whole game because they can't get penalized.
Since we're talking security and we're talking Dom, this is a great segue into protecting the quarterback, which is sponsored by Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for your new career in law enforcement at CocoSheriff.org today, and sponsored by Bay Alarm. Worry less about your people and your property with Bay Alarm, BayAlarm.com. In terms of getting to the quarterback today, what did you think they did to Jalen Hurts, Dennis? How did you think the 49ers D-line fared against one of the best offensive lines, if not the best in all of football?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the game, you see Nick Bosa, kind of mushing up a little bit, but this is a quarterback you got to kind of contain. I mean, you can't take too many inside moves. You got to kind of keep your contain. Kinlaw gets 2 sacks, which is probably his best game as an NFL defensive tackle. But I think they did well. I mean, they contained him well. They got some hits on him. They pressured him, made him throw the ball away a little bit. But this is a quarterback you got to be cautious. I mean, you can't just take those quick inside moves. So I think the defensive line did a really good job just kind of containing him. I mean, you didn't see until the fourth quarter him getting outside the pocket and making plays down the field.
I thought that on both sides of the ball, both in protecting their own and then getting after Jalen Hurts, it was a brilliant game plan because you could see after the first 2 series they changed it to more of a quick hitting offense. Brock Purdy was getting a ton of pressure on those first 2 series, and obviously they got 2 3-and-outs out of it. And I think they made an adjustment on the sidelines after that. The ball was getting out much quicker. You didn't have any issues after those first 2 drives, and then Dennis hit it right on the head. Clearly, their game plan was, we're not letting Jalen Hurts out of the pocket. He did it a couple of times, but not to the level that he's done it before, and they just decided Jalen Hurts is going to be a thrower. And if Jalen Hurts is going to beat us, and if the Eagles are going to beat us, they're beating us through the air because we're not getting beat by Jalen Hurts running all around the field. So I thought that game plan to keep him contained in the pocket was brilliant.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ Dennis Brown here with you following the Niner total beatdown of the Philadelphia Eagles. 42-19 is the final in this one. Christian McCaffrey goes for 1,000 yards total now on the ground on the season. Deebo Samuel has 3 total touchdowns in the game. Brock Purdy, one of the best games of his career. Seems like we're saying that each and every week from now on, or have been for the past, 3 to 4 weeks here. 808 KNBR is the number to call. Let's go out to Greg. Greg's in San Francisco. Greg thinks there's potential for a revenge game in the playoffs. Greg, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys. How's it going? It's Greg calling from Frisco.
Hey, man.
I was out in the East Bay helping my sister move all day today, so I listened to the whole game on KNBR. Y'all did a great job commentating. I appreciate it. I just had a little bit of a question. I'm just wondering, I'm so stoked for that game. I was like, yeah, that was just an amazing win. But I'm just curious. I've heard people say it's going to be like we're definitely going to face them in the NFC Championship. I have no doubt. And I've heard people say we almost don't want to poke the dragon, get them angry, so that when we face them, they're going to come back twice as hard. They're going to know our plays. They're going to study those tapes. I was just curious if you guys had any thoughts on that. My second question was, did we intentionally play weak in the first quarter?
Appreciate the call, Greg. We'll get to all that stuff. Okay, we'll get to a second one there. Did we intentionally play weak in the first quarter? No, I don't think so. I think they would have liked to score on the opening drive, dude. I think Kyle seemed pissed. After the second drive, Kyle did not seem happy, and I thought it was interesting. Tim did too. They throw on their first 3 plays, the first 3 snaps on offense, and that was sort of unlike them, I thought. So maybe a different game plan or a different play call situation there, but clearly whatever was not working early worked by drive 3.
Well, I think what was happening was, and I think they thought they could attack in certain ways and double moves and things like that, but those routes were taking far too long. And obviously the offensive line in those first 2 drives wasn't protecting Brock like they needed to. They got a ton of pressure on him, tip balls, so forth early. And I think they just changed the game plan. I mean, they obviously had those plays in the game plan. They didn't take a full 180 and change it, but sure. I just think they thought, you know what? We're just not going to be able to protect for these long routes. And so it was quick hitters. They turned it around. They did a bunch of quick hitters. The one double move obviously was the wheel route down the sideline that Christian McCaffrey beat Morrow on for a big play. I think it was 32 yards. But, I think they just changed the game plan. I don't think you would ever go into a game and sandbag and say, hey, let's lollygag these guys and then kick their ass later.
Set them up. You got to set them up.
I'd be sick if you were that good, though, huh, Dennis? We'll just wait till drive 3 or 4. We'll kick their ass.
That's what it kind of looked like. It makes me think, was Kyle Shanahan just so excited because he knew, what he could do against this Philadelphia defense. He knew it was going to be wide open in the middle. He knew he can get some plays down the field. He knew Deebo was going to have a good opportunity to play, to get in the end zone 3 times. But then you get too excited and you start too early. And then you go back to the basics, the things that help you win football games, and that's running the football, Christian McCaffrey. And you get back to that. Now you become balanced, and then it opens up everything. I think maybe, they just saw that opportunity and maybe tried to get on it too fast. But, second quarter and the rest of the football game, they exploded. They exploded the entire football game.
808 KNBR is the phone number to call and to text. We'll get to some of your texts and your calls again on the other side. I see you guys hanging here on the phone lines. Go ahead and give us a call. We will get out to you after the Niners beat the Eagles 42-19. What was the most impressive part of this victory? We will talk to our guy John Dickinson, who was on hand to cover this one out at Lincoln Financial. We'll go out there in about a half hour and talk to JD about his thoughts on this one. The 49ers, again, 42-19. I don't think there's a team in the NFL. What they'll say is the Niners and Brock Purdy haven't won close. That's because nobody's played them close enough to make him have to win a close game. I don't know that anybody's got a resume against teams that are going to the playoffs where they have kicked their ass by a delta like the Grand Canyon, like the size of it's just massive the way they've beat some of the teams they've claimed to be the best in football. We'll see what happens against the Ravens in a couple of weeks. Plenty more to come. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund, only here on the Sports Leader.
Going into the week, obviously, Debo had a little something to him. Just That's just who he is, and he can do that. He's good enough to do that. And but was it a distraction or anything like that? No. Debo's practiced hard all week, every single week. He's done that, and he's been very consistent this year. And so, but going into this game, yeah, I mean, he had a little history with obviously the way things went down last year in the playoff game, and he's definitely looked forward to this game, coming back into this place. So he was pumped about it and stoked and ready to go. And man, all I had to do was get him the ball in some space, and he made the rest happen. So really happy for him.
As the voice of 49er quarterback Brock Purdy, who was spectacular today in the Niners' 42-19 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, moves the Niners to 9-3, the Eagles to 10-2, third loss at Lincoln Financial for them in the last 3 years. McCaffrey in the game, 17 carries for 93 yards. Purdy, 19 of 27, 314, 4 passing touchdowns. QB rating of 148.8. Debo, 4 catches, 116, and 2 through the air. Also runs for 3, carries 3 times for 22 yards. And a touchdown. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund with you. Was just looking over some of the Niners' victories on the season. Is Pittsburgh a playoff team? Borderline?
They lost today.
They lost today to Arizona.
So
Picking out Sideline a couple of weeks. Now. So they were borderline.
Yeah.
They were looking pretty good at one point. They hadn't been like. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. They had been winning games, but they didn't look all that good.
No, exactly.
Niners beat them 30-7 week 1. They've now beat the next top 2 teams on both sides of them in the NFC, we think, in terms of status and record. 42-10 in Dallas and 42-19 in terms of the Eagles. They beat Jacksonville out of the bye. Jacksonville's still in play for the number 1 seed in the AFC, 34-3. They play tomorrow night. They beat Philadelphia again tonight, 42-19. And if you thought Seattle was something, or if people think they're a playoff team, 31-13 was the score in Seattle. We see them again next week. Now, Philly does have a good resume. They beat Miami 31-17, beat Dallas by 5, KC by 4, and Buffalo by 4. It's a lot of tight come-from-behind games. If the Niners can go pedal to the metal like this, they are tough to beat, guys.
Yeah, and if they play the way they want, I mean, you saw those first 2 series. If you get away from the formula that you use to win football games, and that's running the football, you make it tough on yourself. But if you execute and you run the football and you let Brock Purdy and you protect him in the pocket, he's gonna shred secondaries. I mean, he showed it again today. I mean, his vision and the way he can read a defense and just drop the ball in there, and he's got the playmakers. And he makes it look easy. He's so comfortable in the pocket. But again, now we're back to the part. I mean, the 49ers are healthy. I mean, only team that can beat the 49ers right now are the 49ers. So it's you saw some penalties early in the football game. On early downs, and it sets them back. But the 49ers can, they have the opportunity now. If they can stay healthy, I think they can run the table.
Yeah. And just back to a caller's question who said that, firing up another team and everything. This team, clearly the 49ers, for everything that they said before the game, and Kyle muted him a little bit this week and said, look, no more bulletin board material. Let's stop with that. Because you could tell Debo Samuel went on the Kay Adams show, which normally Tuesdays. He's pretty outspoken and said just another game. George Kittle was on a national show, just another game. This wasn't just another game to them. You could tell by the emotions of Kyle and the whole team, but they didn't want to fire up Philly more than they already had. So you had a really motivated 49ers team against a Philly team that over the last few weeks had been teetering. And I'm not making excuses for Philly for sure, but the Niners had 10 days to rest. The Eagles played a Buffalo team in overtime in which their defense had to have over 90 snaps. I mean, that's part of the game here, and you've got to just be able to play it. But I think the 49ers were really motivated for this game. But he said that he thought, well, you don't want to fire the Eagles up too much. Look, you kick the Eagles' butt, they're going to be fired up. It's the playoffs. You kick the Cowboys' butt, if you see them, they're going to be fired up because it's the playoffs. But you don't think the 49ers are? I mean, this team has talked since the beginning of the season about this being a championship-level team, and you guys just said it. Offensively, defensively, when they're playing, like if we just rank teams on their potential and what their ceiling is, I don't even think it's close. Maybe the Ravens are the closest to what the 49ers can be at their absolute best, but I think in the Eagles and the Cowboys games, we saw what the 49ers could be, and I don't think anybody else has that potential. And I'm watching the game thinking, how the hell did this team lose to Cleveland,
right,
who just got rolled by the Rams?
3 straight games of 17 points. How'd they do that?
With a backup quarterback? How did this team get beat by Minnesota? How did this team get beat by Cincinnati the way that they did? Now, again, in Cincinnati, they had Burrow. The 49ers are coming off a short week. I mean, those things matter. But, this team should not have to pray for Dallas or Seattle to beat the Eagles. They are that good. And if everything has to come through Santa Clara, I just don't think they're losing.
Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lem with you. Niners 42-19 over the Eagles. They get Seattle next week, then out to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Are going to win today over Pittsburgh, and then they get the Baltimore Ravens you were just talking about at home on Christmas Day. Let's go out to Ben. Ben's on Highway 80, wants to talk some Brock Purdy. Ben, you're on the Sports Leader.
How you doing?
What's up, Ben?
Excellent team win, man. I've been looking forward to this for about 300 days or so, but I'm mainly calling to talk about the best quarterback in the league, Mr. Relevant, number 13, Brock Purdy. You know what, man? I was listening to Colin Cowherd the other day, and he was saying that Purdy hadn't yet faced adversity in his career. I mean, the dude literally tore a ligament in his arm, and he's playing at the level that he is this year. It's incredible. So, I don't really understand why people say that he hasn't had any adversity and all that. But yeah, man, he's the captain of that ship. Just an overall amazing team win. And I think that, I think a lot of people love to say that, oh, hey, he's just a system quarterback and that he's in a great Shanahan system. But you know what? Last time I checked, dude, it takes 11 guys to field the team, both on the offensive and defensive side.
Ben, let me tell you this real quick, just because we got to give some love. We appreciate the call. We got to throw some respect to Colin Cowherd, because you guys heard the soundbite from him earlier this week. Did you hear it, Dennis, about him saying Brock Purdy is no good because he wears a backwards hat?
That's his old bit.
It was a pretty funny bit. This is obviously a bit, but he goes, "Let's go hit some golf balls, guys." Like, he's too sort of broy. Well, I get a text earlier today. If you guys haven't seen it, you can check it out at Adam Copes on Twitter or on the KNBR Twitter account. Get a text from one of our guys, Greg Silver, who's in the bullpen here, and Greg, Danny, and one of our other guys, Kyle Har, they were all sitting there cutting sound for the Niner game. All three rocking backwards hats, or Brockwoods hats, John, as we call them.
Yes.
And so I tweeted it out and tagged Cowherd. About 20 minutes ago, he retweeted it and said, I'm honored. I'm honored that you guys were doing the Brockwoods cap. So shout out to Cowherd coming around on Brock, maybe at least.
Hey, you guys want to hit some golf balls?
That's a pretty funny bit.
He's had that bit forever, and since he did it, he's just going to stay with it.
You got to work a bit, John. You got to work a bit.
Yeah.
You got to work a bit.
As far as this question is concerned, I'm beyond the point of people nationally respecting the guy. I don't care. You know who respects him? And Dennis, again, you know this. It's players who respect him. Like the players on the other team, they don't take him lightly. The coaches on the other teams, they don't take him lightly. I mean, you hear what they say about Brock Purdy. His own teammates love the hell out of the guy. They know that he's a massive upgrade from Jimmy Garoppolo or any other quarterback that Kyle has had. That's why they feel like this is the year to win a Super Bowl. They've had great defenses. They've had great running games. They've had great tight end in George Kittle. They've had all these guys. They've had a great defensive line. They have a guy in Brock Purdy who's a level above of anything that they have. And if the national narrative never changes, so be it. But we'll see this tomorrow. I for the heck of it, about a month ago, I put a few bucks on Brock Purdy as the MVP at 25-1. I bet tomorrow, because he outplayed Jalen Hurts by a ton today. Lamar Jackson's probably ahead of him. Mahomes is only ahead of him, not because of the year he's having, but because Mahomes.
Brock wasn't top 5. Dak was still ahead of him entering this week.
Yeah. And Dak probably still will be. But I'm watching the Packers and Chiefs here. They're now 14-3 to the Packers. And it's not Mahomes' fault, because his best receiver's Rashee Rice. I mean, it's just they don't have anything around him.
Easy, I'm looking for points.
But I get it. But he's not having that kind. He's not having a typical Mahomes year. So if we're thinking about an MVP race, look, Dak's continuing to play well, but he already beat him. Jalen Hurts, he just smoked him. I mean, if they go in on Christmas Day again with a big national audience, same as today, and they beat the Ravens, and he throws another 4 touchdowns. He better clear space on his mantle, because he's going to have an MVP trophy. He's got an opportunity to do it.
And man, when does it stop? I mean, when do you believe in this kid? I mean, when does it happen? I mean, will it take an MVP? I mean, it's each week it's Brock Purdy. He's a system guy. He's got things around him. He's got players around him. And it just feels like he doesn't get his credit. He doesn't get his roses. So it may just take an MVP, but he's got Christian McCaffrey too. I think he might be the MVP.
Well, that's the thing. There's a case that and they probably won't give it to him. It's a quarterback award now. I mean, he may win Offensive Player of the Year, but I don't know that it's going to go to anybody else other than a quarterback. Though I'm with you, Dennis. It may be Christian McCaffrey. Let's go out to Brett real quick. Brett's in Walnut Creek. Wants to talk about how San Francisco really showed Philly who the best team was in football. Brett, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. What a great game today, going into their house and if someone would have told me that they're going to be -6 yards, no first downs, worst quarter in Kyle Shannon's history as a head coach, they're going to roll 42 on Philly, I would have said there's no way. But they're so diverse. And it was interesting. I think about Brock Purdy a little bit. And the other thing I liked is the refs let the guys play today. We've been so many games we've seen this year where it's a holding. It's defensive.
Seattle and Dallas.
Let them play a little
Seattle
bit
and
today.
Dallas was the worst game all year.
Don't tell Greenlaw guys got to play.
It literally might have been the worst game I've ever seen.
Yeah,
that was tough.
The whole third quarter was penalties
bad,
in that game.
It was terrible. And so, let him play today. And then I was thinking about Brock Purdy, and I said, the difference between Brock Purdy and I'm going to say, I'm not going to quite elevate him to call him Joe Burrow, but not a lot of difference except for where he got drafted. Joe Burrow doesn't throw it 90 yards. Joe Burrow isn't super fast. Joe Burrow isn't 6'5", 220. Joe Burrow isn't – but you know what Joe Burrow knows how to do? Process a game. Think about what I need to do to get the plays. Brock Purdy was the number 3 draft pick in the draft, everyone would be – there wouldn't be a question about MVP. It wouldn't be a question. He'd be touted like this. He's living up to everything that's expected. The irony is because where he is drafted, everyone is still waiting for him to fail.
I'm with you, Brett. I'm totally with you.
That's a great call.
It's a great call. Thanks so much, Brett. Call anytime, man. We really do appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who checked in. We do have to take a quick break. When we come on back, we are going to hear from Christian McCaffrey, who spoke after the game to Greg Papa and Tim Ryan. Huge game for McCaffrey. He goes over 1,000 yards on the season on the ground alone. 17 carries for 93 yards. Also has 3 catches for 40 yards. He did find the end zone on the ground as well. He's got 12 rushing touchdowns on the years. It's 17 now on the season for Christian McCaffrey. We'll hear what he had to say after the Niners hammer the Philadelphia Eagles 42-19, and then we'll go back out to Philly to check in with our guy John Dickinson, who was on hand for KNBR to cover the game. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champ, Dennis Brown, John Lund, and we've got the Niners. 1 game back of the top seed Philadelphia Eagles after a 42-19 win, only here on the Sports Leader.
Ayuk goes in long motion right. McCaffrey, the lone back. Purdy under center. Handoff coming left. Touchdown! CMC!
There it was yet again. Christian McCaffrey for the 12th time this year finds the end zone on the ground. 17 carries, 93 yards in the game, and along a 16, which means he was doing work out there. Also 3 catches. I keep saying the 4. It was 4 targets, 3 catches for 40 yards for McCaffrey. Over 100 yards from scrimmage yet again, and he goes over 1,000 on the ground for the season. Niners win 42-19, and Christian McCaffrey was our post-game player interview, which is sponsored, of course, by the Handler Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. After the game, McCaffrey was able to speak to Tim Ryan and Greg Papa, our broadcast team, about his 1,000-yard season performance and the Niners' big win.
Christian now joins us from the 49er locker room. First of all, congratulations on 1,000 yards on the year. We'll get into that, but we're talking about that play and when Kyle called it. Obviously, Buffalo ran it last week to the rookie back Cook. It went off his fingertips against Morrow. But tell me about the setup of the wheel route, Christian, and the actual route and the catch against Nicholas Morrow.
Yeah, it was a great throw. First off, Brock put it exactly where it was supposed to be. We had just talked about it on the sideline a couple drives before that. If we get that, I'll be ready for it. So it came down to him throwing a perfect ball, threw it, great on time, right on the red line where it was supposed to be. And protection held up, so it was an explosive.
Yeah, it was a great play, CMC. And then I thought the play call right after it was another timely call, getting a defense that is going to be chasing and desperate trying to get you guys with the Z reverse from Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I think it was so calculated, and anytime you can put the ball in Deebo's hands, especially right after explosive, kind of getting the ball snapped quickly, getting going, and Deebo's a bad man. If he's got the ball in his hands, you don't know which one is going to be the one where he can take it to the house. So he showed that today again.
Christian, who knows how this game was going to go in terms of the way that it started, and minus 6 yards in the first 2 drives, only 6 plays, 2 3-and-outs, tried to come out throwing it, tip ball, couple incompletions, some pressure. I thought the 3rd and 3 play to Kittle out on the 49er sideline was the play that really flipped it and got you guys started.
Yeah, I think there was a collection of those plays. I think our guys don't blink. And Brock doesn't blink. No one hesitated. We knew what we had to do. The defense did a hell of a job, kind of keeping points off the board and limiting them to only 6 right there. And so for us, once we got in a rhythm, we kept it going and we didn't blink. And I think that's what I was proud of with our guys, and just stayed poised and kept the train going.
Yeah, resilient versus a resilient team. And then you started getting the run game going, some of those downhill runs. What can you say about Trent Williams and George Kittle out to the left side, and Aaron Banks and Brendel to the second level, Juice kicking guys out? Just talk about the support structure that's blocking for you.
It's amazing, man. I can't say enough good things about the way that this whole team commits to the run from the coaches down. And I'm just so happy to be, the one with the ball in my hands when these runs get called, because it's so fun to run right or left, and just to be able to know that these guys are putting it all on the line, receivers blocking downfield. I'm lucky that I'm here. I love these guys, and I love the effort they give in the run game. And like I said, just fortunate to be a part of this team.
You played a lot of great football. We all remember you at Stanford. I hated you there for what you did in my USC Trojans. And then in Carolina, certainly covered you. Have you ever had more fun playing ball than you're having right now with this 49er team?
No, I can honestly say no. Yeah, this is one of the funnest teams I've been a part of. And I think what makes it fun is how hard everybody works. And the standard is so high, and it gives you confidence when you know that your brother next to you is doing everything he can to be the best version of himself, and it makes it fun coming into work every day and knowing the challenges we have ahead of us and knowing the guys that are next to you who are going to approach those challenges.
All right, last one for me, and appreciate you. You know what the Webster's Dictionary word of the year is this year?
What is it?
Accountable.
Hey, I love that, man. Accountable. I love that.
You're dropping that all over the place this week.
I learned something this week.
This is the 4th time in your career you've rushed for over 1,000 yards. The back-to-back years in Carolina, last year with the trade. 1,000 is still a milestone, and you're the first 49er running back, Christian, to get there since Frank Gore, who I know was on your sideline today. So what does it mean to you to rush for 1,000 yards?
It means a lot. Going into the year, it's always you want to see that 1,000 number. It's such a team. It's a team win for that. That's like I said. It's just to be the one with the ball in my hands when these run plays are called is an honor because of the way that these guys block. From the O-line to the tight ends to Juice, to the receivers down the field, and that. When a running back scores or gets 1,000 yards, that's a team effort, and like I said, I'm just proud to be a part of it.
And you do both. You seemingly score every single game, and now you get 1,000 yards on the year. Christian, thanks for your time, my friend.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
There you go. Christian McCaffrey over 1,000 yards for the fourth time in his career, and as you heard Papa say there, the first 49er to do it since Frank Gore, who was on the sidelines today and was hyped up walking back to the locker room. More to come here following a 49er 42-19 victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. They are now a game back from the number one seed in the NFC playoff picture. And if they can get that loss from Philadelphia, if Dallas ends up beating Philly or Philly slips up at any other point this year and the Niners can win out, they would be the number one seed and have that bye week when they get to late January. More to come here when we come on back. We are going to check in. Actually, we'll go back out to Philadelphia. Our guy, John Dickinson, super reporter. We'll check in with him. We talked to him before the game. We'll see what his thoughts were. He's out there covering it for KNBR. John Dickinson joins us next. Niners 42-19 over the Birds on the Sports Leader.
John Dickinson, super reporter.
the hardest man in Bay Area sports media, John Dickinson, Super Report.
Wow.
Oh, we go back
he's the hardest man. He's on Viagra.
I said what I said, boys. John Dickinson, the newest member of the KNBR team. He's out in Philadelphia covering the game. Stay hard. John Dickinson joins us from Philadelphia. Niners win 42-19. John, I don't know if it's true or not. I said what I said coming in on the opening. When you joined us on pregame, how are you, man? How'd you enjoy the game?
What?
Dude, that video's classic, man. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm stymied, actually. No, what a game. I mean, what a performance for the 49ers, especially after the first two offensive possessions where not only did they go 3 and out, but they had 6 consecutive plays that had no chance. I mean, all 6 of them were what I deemed to be no chance plays. And then for the defense to do the job that they did on the first 2 series, holding Philadelphia to a couple of field goals, and then everything completely flipped. The Niners did exactly to the Eagles what the Eagles did to them in quarter number 2, as opposed to quarter number 1, and then it just took off from there and turned into complete and utter domination with the 6 consecutive touchdowns and the blowout victory. And then they get a little bit of revenge. Doesn't mean they're going to the Super Bowl, as was the case when the Eagles won here back in January, but a hell of a statement win. And I do think, I know a big part of the conversation the next few days is going to be, are the 49ers now Super Bowl favorites? I think without a doubt they are, at least in the NFC, Super Bowl favorites now, given the fact that they blew out the Cowboys and blew out the Eagles and are right back on a roll here at 9-3.
John, after those first 2 series, I mean, what was going through your mind? I mean, I was sitting there and I was thinking, okay, the defense is playing well. Offense is definitely not playing very well. And I didn't know how they're going to get off, how they get back into stride or get back into their game. But then they start running the football. What were your thoughts after those first 2 series of the 49ers?
I couldn't believe that Christian McCaffrey didn't have a touch.
Right.
And they threw it 4 times. And we were talking about it before the game, just the fact that everything really runs through McCaffrey and Debo, and then everybody else kind of gets theirs off of that. But really it starts with McCaffrey. And I think Kyle Shanahan thought that they could come out and throw it a little bit and that there were areas in which they could expose the Eagles defensively. But no, the Eagles were flying around. And really, I think the Eagles, on the sheer emotion of this game and the rematch of the game from January and their big win here on Sunday and the win over the Chiefs that preceded that, I think they were kind of running on adrenaline from the last couple of weeks and the adrenaline from the crowd here at the beginning of the game. And when they couldn't punch it in for a touchdown on either of those first 2, I mean, maybe we're talking about a completely different game if it's 14-0. I think we probably would be. But the way the Niners got their offense dialed, and it really did start – it started with the run. But let's not mistake. I mean, Brock Purdy on that first touchdown drive was 6 of 7 for 71 yards. They got the ball to McCaffrey 3 times. But he went on a 9 of 11 heater for 118 just in the second quarter after the 0 for 4 start there to the game in the first quarter. And so it was Purdy getting on a roll, it was McCaffrey getting involved, and then it was Debo just putting the Eagles away as this game went on, and just a major statement made. But I was surprised there wasn't a little more McCaffrey in those first couple of series. But the Niners get a lot of credit for holding their mud in those first 2 series, really both ways. And just it was an onslaught. As the game went on, you could tell that the Eagles were gassed and that they were banged up and that the 49ers did have more talent and that the 49ers did have a better game plan on this day. It just took those first couple of possessions either way for everything to start to get fleshed out.
John Dickinson joining us. 49ers beat the Eagles badly today, 42-19. And like you said, first quarter, the Eagles lead 6-0. I think it was the big difference. Obviously, they set up for field goals. 49ers got touchdowns. They roll from there. Obviously, the big story with 9:27 left in the third, Dre Greenlaw gets kicked out. I'm not behind what he did. He does the suplex to Devontae Smith. He should have got a 15-yard penalty. But the thing that confuses me, and you're there, so I'm sure you've seen the pool report, is that their security guy in the sideline, which he should not be there. Nick Sirianni does not need a security guard when he has 60 men in full combat gear, but for some reason he gets a security guy by him or needs one. And then he gets into it with Dre Greenlaw. Well, because according to the pool report, because Dre Greenlaw is a player, then Dre Greenlaw can get a penalty and get kicked out. And the best they can do for a non-player is to kick him out, and they can't penalize him at all. But he was the one getting into it. So first of all, the guy shouldn't have been there. Second of all, they've got to change the rule that he could be penalized, because those are offsetting penalties, and the ball goes back to its original spot and everything gets erased, which should have been the case there. But the impressive thing, JD, was that most teams under that situation, so the Eagles then go down the field and they make it a 21-6 game, a 21-13 game. So it puts a ton of pressure on the 49ers. The Link is going crazy. They're going wild. They think they're back in the game. And the 49ers score on that 48-yarder to Deebo Samuel, make it 28-13. Within that same time, Jalen Hurts goes off the field with a concussion, and they score 2 more times after that to make it 42-19. I am so impressed with the way that the 49ers handled that adversity, where a lot of teams would have just folded under that kind of pressure in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they didn't do it, and I think the low-key play of that whole stretch was Purdy on third down. He found Brandon Ayuk after the Eagles had made it the 8-point game, and all hell kind of broke loose there for a little bit, and the place was absolutely lit. Purdy finds Ayuk on the third down right before the Deebo touchdown. And I think picking up that third down, keeping that drive moving, I think that was as deflating for the Eagles as what was to come, and that was Deebo taking it to the house after that. I think that was pretty much game over at that point. The 49ers able to force another punt. I thought it was weird they didn't go for that 4th and 2, given the fact that the 49ers offense had dominated really for 2 quarters at that point. It was 28-13. They had the 4th and 2. It was on their own end, but I mean, to me, if you can't pick that up, the game's probably over anyway. So I think the Niners just kept applying the pressure, and it was apparent that the Eagles weren't going to be able to keep up. But that Purdy to Ayuk third down conversion, when they could have gone 3 and out and could have given the ball right back to the Eagles with a chance to tie, I think that was as big as anything that came after it. And I just echo what Kyle Shanahan said as far as the whole thing with Mr. Dom DeSandro. I just can't believe that somebody can that's not on the team, that's not a uniformed member, can do that. And kind of, I was throwing it around to other media members. Like, have you ever seen, can you remember a time where somebody, non-player is able to get a player ejected from a game? I mean, that's
well, if they keep that up, why can't everybody have a jackass standing on the sidelines just to piss off? Yeah, right. It's like a hockey goon, and let's just have him piss off players, walk up and down the sidelines, because he can't get penalized. He can only get kicked out of the game, and who cares? I mean, maybe he gets fined. I don't know what they do, but I mean, they got to change that rule.
No, they do, and I was under the impression, and wrong, as you mentioned in the board report, I was under the impression that the sideline itself could be penalized.
I thought so too.
And so whether that's a player or a coach or a member, a team official, basically on the sideline that interferes with the game, because to me at that point, what Dom DeSandro was doing, the security officer, was he was interfering in the game. Like, you can't be running your mouth like that at a player. Like, that's just not your place in that particular instance. And so, yeah, I was always under the impression that the sideline could get a penalty and that would be an offsetting penalty, but apparently that's not in the rules. And yeah, they kicked him off the sideline, but it wasn't equal. I got Greenlaw getting thrown out for that, because it did look like, the optics of it weren't great. I mean, it looked for a moment like he punched him, or like he meant to punch him and kind of pulled back at the last second. But he made contact. And to me, when he made contact, whether he intended to or not, I think at that point, I put it out immediately on Twitter. I said, well, he's probably getting run. But yeah, the way the 49ers handled themselves after that, I think, was as impressive as the way they handled themselves down 6-0 and not getting down 14-0 and bouncing back and dropping a 42 piece on the Eagles in the biggest game of the year to date.
Talking to John Dickinson, who's out in Philadelphia, saw the 49ers, as you just mentioned, 42-19, beat down the Philadelphia Eagles. So they've now put 42 points on the Eagles and on the Dallas Cowboys. Eagles and Cowboys play again next week in Dallas. It's kind of crazy, right? They've beaten both of them by big-time deficits like that, or big scores like that. Jacksonville 34-3, they beat them. Seattle 31-13 last week. If Pittsburgh gets into the playoffs, they beat them 30-7 week 1. I just think when the 49ers offense gets going the way it does, if this defense is playing even like moderate defense. If the offense is going to do what it did today, I don't know there's an offense in football, save the Baltimore Ravens, that could keep up.
I'm with you.
Miami
really
maybe too, but I don't know their defense is that good.
No, but Miami doesn't do it against good teams.
Sure, that's right. They're a bully.
I mean, that I think is what separates the 49ers from some of the other teams you mentioned. And I was thinking about it as you were saying it, Copes. I mean, the 49ers have as impressive a resume, I think, as anybody. If you start going through a lot of their wins and even their losses, I know the Bengals with Burrow were going to be a playoff team. Obviously, they're not going to be now, but they faced him with Burrow, and Burrow lit them up. When I thought the Niners were against the Bengals in a similar spot that the Eagles were today, coming off with some really difficult games and a couple of losses and just kind of gassed at home, but you needed the game to play out to where over the full 60 minutes it was going to, basically the Eagles would be broken today if the Niners could apply any legitimate pressure on them. And they took them a little while to do it, but they were able to. But, yeah, I just keep looking at this thing, and I think the 49ers have as impressive a resume in terms of who they've beaten, even who they've lost to, with the Browns, who have the excellent defense, and the Vikings, I think, still have the potential to be a playoff team in the NFC, maybe a 6 or a 7 seed. The other thing is when their offense has been healthy, and I think this was your point, not to be redundant, I mean, they haven't been able to be beaten. Like the 3 losses were, Trent Williams is out and Debo's out and McCaffrey's banged up with the rib and, Purdy had the concussion and all of that. So when they've had everybody, they've won and they've won in big time fashion.
Just in talking to the guys after the game, and because I got this sense right at the beginning that they were just extremely fired up, that everybody was kind of muted this week, and you were down there. Everybody was kind of muted, Kyle, you could tell, because Debo didn't say anything on the Kay Adams show, and George Kittle was on a national show and said this is just any other game. But you could tell right from the get-go that this was something. And I just think we're going to see him again, and in the playoffs, everybody's fired up. I think, by the way, that Dallas is going to beat Philly next week. I just think they're tired. Dallas has been really good at home, save the Seattle game last week. They've been really good, and they almost beat Philly. It was 28-23, and if Ferguson gets into the end zone or if Dak doesn't step out of bounds, they beat him. I think when we're talking a week from now, I think the 49ers are going to be the top seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then we'll see what happens from there as far as, do the Niners slip up? Do the Eagles? I mean, they got to go play in Seattle after they play Dallas, which is, not going to be an easy thing to do on the back end of playing the 4 games that they've just played. I do think the Eagles are better than Seattle, and we've seen the Niners go up there, and it's not quite the same Seattle as in prior years. So I think that's a game the Eagles can win. But can you imagine having to win that game, or you're basically not going to get the 1 seed? I mean, that's a hell of a tough environment to have to go win a game on Monday night to basically salvage your 1 seed at that point. And then you got to run the table to boot, which I think the Eagles will do beyond that, because they go Giants, Arizona Giants over their final 3 games. So I think the Eagles are going to win their final 3. But it's just how does it shake out over the next 2 that ultimately determine this thing. But, you start looking at the Niners and what they have ahead, and they're in great shape. Avoid the letdown against Seattle, handle your business at Arizona and Washington, and against the Rams at Levi's that first week of January. You do all that, and really the most difficult game that you have remaining is the Christmas game against the Ravens at Levi's, and that looks like a showdown type game, AFC against NFC, kind of like the last time that those 2 teams played in 2019 in Baltimore when the Niners ultimately went to the Super Bowl and the Ravens had an excellent team. That was a big time battle right around this time in that 2019 season when they last met. So other than that, if the Niners don't slip up, and I really don't think they're going to, I think we are looking at a scenario where they are the 1 seed and have home field advantage, and it's going to be on the Eagles to have to show that they can make it to Levi's, and then we'll see who's healthy and who's rolling at that point.
JD, we really do appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for the time, both pregame and postgame. We love the work you're doing already. Have a safe trip back to the Bay Area, and we will talk to you this week, man. Thanks so much.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, dude. The voice you hear, John Dickinson, doing a great job. John Dickinson, super reporter here of KNBR and does stuff for KNBR.com, of course. He's going to be heard all over our airwaves doing 49er coverage, Giants coverage, and, of course, on Dubs OT and next Saturday from there he is. Only guy with a theme song on our station, and he's been here less than a week. When we come on back, we'll get to the call of the game, the drive of the game, all that good stuff from the 49ers' 42-19 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Only here on the Sports Leader.
It means a lot to this group. One thing that we fighting for is the first week behind the playoffs, and, we're going to keep striving to do that.
That's Deebo Samuel, 42-19. Deebo was great, 3 touchdowns. He was also returning kicks today, had the big 48-yard touchdown. He was huge as the 49ers dominate in Philadelphia, and he's talking about that top seed. Potentially, they're 9-3 now. Philadelphia is 10-2, but they've got to go to Dallas next week. It's going to be tough on the road. Then they go to Seattle. Got a few easy ones at the end. They got the Giants twice in Arizona, so hopefully in the next 2 weeks, especially in Dallas next week. I know it's going to be weird to try to be a Cowboys fan, but if the Cowboys could beat the Eagles next week, the 49ers continue to roll, they'd get the top seed in the NFC. The 49ers, of course, have Seattle next week at home. Let's give you the drive of the game featuring Deebo Samuel. That's sponsored by good friends at Modesto Toyota. Tevin and the entire crew. Shout out to Modesto Toyota. It is worth the drive for selection and savings. And, of course, that's where I get my Toyotas. Family-owned since 1965, over 50 years. Yours is waiting. Just jump online to ModestoToyota.com. Here is Deebo.
Deebo Samuel is loose. Touchdown! San Francisco, the Deebo dash.
What a play call. Quick perimeter screen, out to the left, quick snap. Deebo's waving bye-bye to this
third touchdown of the
Philadelphia
game.
crowd.
Deebo Samuel was huge all day long. He gets the 12-yard touchdown run. He gets the 48-yard touchdown pass, does Deebo. That was the one right after Philadelphia had pulled that thing within 21-13. Then that fracas on the sidelines. The link is going crazy. And then the 49ers score in 3:54 in the third quarter. That 48-yard pass from Deebo Samuel from Brock Purdy at 2:57 of the third quarter. They retook command at 28-13, and they end up winning this thing 42-19. That's the drive of the game, brought to us by our good friends at Modesto Toyota. More. So we take your calls, thoughts, and looking ahead with the 49ers taking on the Seahawks the rest of the year with about 4 weeks left in the season. The 49ers over the Eagles 42-19, and you heard it all only here on the Sports Leader.
Third down and 5. Purdy looks left. Purdy throws left. Caught. You know who? Jawan Jennings breaks a tackle. Touchdown! San Francisco!
If you're going to come with a zero blitz, the 49ers are going to spray some raid on you.
49ers get the win 42-19. Why don't we make that the call of the game, sponsored by Call 811. Whether your project is big or small, always call 811 before you dig. 42-19. The Niners over the Philadelphia Eagles are a game back of the 1 seed. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Lund wrapping things up here on the Sports Leader. Dennis, final thoughts on this one from you, man. Thoughts that the Niners have a chance to get the number 1 seed still. It's still alive here as we head into Week 14.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I mean, you just take care of business. You take game for game. I mean, you have the Seattle Seahawks. You know Seattle. You know Pete Carroll's going to have them up and ready. You take care of business there. Then you come back and you got Christmas and you got to play the Baltimore Ravens, a good football team, a mobile quarterback. A good offense, explosive offense. You just take care of business. And now, this is late in the season. This is December. This is when you just stack up wins. You go in and like the caller said, it's like business. I mean, you just take care of business when you're there, and it's a business trip, or at home, it's a business deal. You got to close it. So you have control of your own destiny right now. You just kind of get after it, like Debo said. That's the goal. To have that bye, and then the Super Bowl goes through San Francisco. That's got to be the goal.
Yeah, look, they played great. Don't let it go to your head like it did Dallas. I'm not trying to put a damper on this thing, and the guys have the 24-hour rule, but the last time we saw them smoke somebody like that, they put so much into it. They lost 3 consecutive games. Look, I don't think Seattle can come in here next week and win. They're just not very good, but you saw a desperate Seattle team on Thursday against the Cowboys, and they could have won that game. They ended up losing by a few points, but they played a good game in Dallas, and they are now 6-6. The Rams are now 6-6, but they beat Seattle twice. So Seattle's backs are against the wall. They can't afford to lose many more games, and their next 2 weeks are at the 49ers and home against the Eagles. So you're gonna play a desperate football team next week. Don't let this all go to your head. Don't think that you can exhale because you were so prepared and so psyched to play this game that you then have a downfall against Seattle. This season is not over. We can't all assume they're going to win all these games. The Baltimore game is going to be tough. The Rams all of a sudden at the end of the season look like a tough game. So great win, feel great, party on the plane, do whatever you have to do. But then when you get back in here, for treatment on Monday, they get the player day off Tuesday. But when you come in for Wednesday and you start preparing for Seattle, understand that was a hell of a win, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't come out with the same intensity against Seattle.
49ers move to 9-3. As you mentioned, they take on Seattle next week at home, and then they go back out to Arizona to take on the Eagles for the second time this year, and then they'll come back home to play the Ravens on Christmas Day at the Commanders, and then against the Rams to wrap things up. We will be back with you next Sunday. I guess we'll be on with you 9 a.m. A 9 a.m. pregame for you next Sunday ahead of the Niners and the Seahawks from Levi Stadium down in Santa Clara. Niners over the Philadelphia Eagles. Way to exercise those demons, boys, in a beautiful way, in a like no doubt, leave no doubt on the table kind of way. For Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Lund, we'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Our programming starts, and then we'll be back again, as I said, next week at 9 a.m. ahead of Niners and the Seahawks. Until then, Niners over the Eagles, 42-9-10. The sports continue. We will throw you to the second half here of Green Bay leading Kansas City 14-6 from Lambeau Field on the Sports Leader.
Some fat ass on the sidelines.